Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lou. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast after the Raptors win 115 to 101 on the road against the Pacers, who have had some nice wins lately. They just beat the Celtics, which, as we all know, is impossible. So, congrats to Pascal for getting the game winner against the Celtics. And yeah, I was expecting a much tougher game, quite frankly. Just considering the fact that the Pacers had been playing better, but the Raptors got off to an incredible start. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the game, Raptors were up, and the Pacers had to call like the first two timeouts at least, but Raptors were up 32 to 11 through about 10 minutes. And I was just sitting there, just looking at this thing, and I was just, this is like the best 10 minutes I've seen the Raptors play all season. And, they got off to an 11 to 2 start. They carried that over. Even after timeouts and stoppages in play, like the Raptors just kept going, and it wasn't even like missed shots or the Pacers like playing lackadaisical and turning the ball over a lot. I just thought the Raptors dominated them, man, and especially coming into this game, that Raptors were down even more. I mean, the guys unavailable tonight, Jakob Poeltl, R.J. Barrett, joining them finally. Actually, no, Jacoby Walters also had a hit pointer, so he's out. Then Emmanuel quickly was out from this game. Sandro Mamukelashvili was out for this game. He was sick. Freaking even Garrett Temple had a bad back. I don't know what happened in the conga line, but something must have jarred a little bit loose there. Get well soon to all those guys. But you had so many guys missing. And so when you watched this game, you were like a little nervous, especially considering the fact that I was expecting the Pacers to, just come through with a little bit of swagger. The Raptors have beaten the Pacers a lot this year. Obviously, the Raptors beat them by like 30 points early in the year. Then the Raptors hit them with the game winner with Brandon Ingram. And then tonight, especially at the start of this game, I was expecting them to throw the first punch considering how vulnerable the Raptors were. But again, like the Raptors came out with their 10 best minutes of basketball all season, and they got up 32 to 11. The ball movement, the defense, the aggressiveness, how relentless they were attacking the basket. That is where the Pacers really struggle, is protecting the paint, and the Raptors got behind their defense a lot in this game. And, that was basically the entire game, was Toronto being able to get inside and just dominate down low. But yeah, I mean, even the defense, I mean, it's been such a pleasure to watch Scottie Barnes and Brandon and Colin Murray-Boyles, the two of those guys working together. And granted, like, Jamal Shed comes in the starting lineup. That's a boost on defense over IQ, obviously. But like, it was the rotations from Scottie and Colin that just like shut down everything for the Pacers. Like, obviously, when you play the Pacers, a couple of things, right? Number one, obviously Pascal is like a huge threat to go one-on-one. So Scottie Barnes guarding Pascal already is a really, really nice start to all of that. Then you got to figure out what you're going to do with Andrew Nembhard, who's very tricky off the dribble, and he's able to attack mismatches and just really be a shifty driver. I mean, I was so impressed tonight with how often CMB was able to move his feet, slide in isolations against Nembhard and not foul, be strong. Nembhard has that like ultimate cheat code with that shoulder move that he bumps into people. I mean, I've literally interviewed Andrew about it the last 2 summers, but he has a cheat code move where he puts his shoulder into a guy and he's able to step back, and he has great balance and great strength with it. But part of being able to use that move is you got to be able to deliver the first bump and bump the guy backwards. Nobody bumps Colin Murray-Boyles backwards. Colin Murray-Boyles just sits there and bounces you backwards because that's how strong he is. So he was walling him off on those switches. Jamal was also chasing guys around. And yeah, just the fury in which the Raptors were able to defend and then get out in transition. Obviously, that effort is always led night after night by Scottie Barnes, who was just simply sensational tonight. But everybody was going. I mean, even when the second unit guys came in and you were a little worried, you're like, okay, we kind of have to play some like our struggling second unit guys, and we got to depend on them, right? If Gradey Dick doesn't have it tonight, if Ochai Agbaji doesn't have it tonight, it's going to be a struggle because like we only had like 10 guys available on the night. So you needed them to come on strong. But I mean, credit to those guys. I mean, with extended time to play and also with sort of how much momentum the Raptors starters got them going with, I mean, when they hit the game, it actually took the Raptors to another level. I mean, Ochai Agbaji knocking down back-to-back threes, that I don't think that's happened all season. So that was great to see from Ochai. And then Gradey Dick, I believe he got assisted by Scottie Barnes 6 times tonight, which is just unbelievable. But Gradey Dick just continuously getting into these pockets where he was screening for the ball. Pacers didn't want to switch. A lot of those screening actions are honestly, a little lazy on some of those plays too. Obviously, the main concern was, Scottie with the ball. They want to make sure strong defenders in front of him. But, the amount of times Gradey was able to set the screen and then slip out of the screen and get into that sort of mid-range area and Scottie was able to deliver the pass over the top, and Gradey was just hitting everything, like cutting to the basket, getting fouled at the basket, taking it strong to the hoop, little mid-range turnaround jumpers. Like, he just kept being in that sort of pick and roll action where the Raptors really wanted to get Scottie either a mismatch by forcing a switch or getting, an advantage with Gradey slipping behind the defense. And it was like, I mean, it led to the best game of Gradey Dick's entire season. I mean, breakout game for Gradey Dick finally in game like 40 of the season or whatever it is by this point, maybe 41, 42. But happy for him because he came out and established himself. I mean, the way he rebounded the ball too was impressive. The way the whole team rebounded the ball. But I mean, just everybody was working together. There was like so little of like, okay, the Raptors have to like stop the play and play slow and go one-on-one. Like, there was so little of that. And of course, in the moments when they needed to some of that, I mean, that's where Brandon Ingram was there, hitting turnaround jump shots, hitting threes, just like cheat code. I mean, they were guarding him with a rookie tonight and Johnny, or not a rookie, I guess Johnny Furphy's a sophomore player, but like a second year player tonight, and it was a lot of one-on-one. I mean, have teams not learned? You cannot guard Brandon Ingram one-on-one, man. And every time you do guard him one-on-one, he goes for 30, and he gave 30 tonight to the Pacers. But Ingram getting little turnaround jumpers, I mean, just straight up cheat code jumpers. Scottie Barnes doing bully ball stuff, putting his shoulder into guys, creating that short separation, and then hitting that short little jumper that he's so good at. Like, literally everything was working well for the Raptors. And honestly, they rode that early momentum going into the entire first half. I mean, the second quarter, the Pacers started getting a couple threes to drop. And the Pacers have been shooting the threes really well lately. They can be a really good three-point shooting team. But ultimately, like, the Raptors were still able to score a ton. Again, the second unit, being in there and actually delivering was massive. You don't typically see that strong performance from the second unit. But even on a night where guys really couldn't, there was no backup for them, basically. But maybe that was a good thing because all these guys knew they were going to play a lot of minutes and be in there to play through it. But guys like Gradey Dick going for 21 and 11, Ochai Agbaji going for 10, which is basically the equivalent of Gradey going for 21. Like that just absolutely carried the second unit there. And it gave the Raptors a nice cushion to play with going into the second half. Now, granted, the offense wasn't as fluid in the third quarter. And by the time it got to the fourth quarter, like the Pacers were chipping away, and eventually it got down to like 13, 14 points. And the Pacers finally unveiled their zone defense. Part of that, I think, is actually because Pascal had 4 fouls. And so they were obviously trying to protect Pascal a little bit, worried that he's going to pick up more foul trouble, especially considering his primary matchup with Scottie, who was being so aggressive tonight. So they shifted to a zone for pretty much the entire fourth quarter. And I got to say, one of the things that the Raptors really need to work on and focus on, and I know the Raptors do work on this, like it's not something that they're not aware of or whatever, but Raptors really got to figure out how they want to play against the zone, because all that free-flowing offense, all that cutting behind the defense, all those like one-on-one battles, driving to the basket, finding C&B underneath the basket, dunking the ball, all that stuff like completely disappeared when the zone shifted in. And I think in particular, there's a couple guys that I think struggle with this, like Jamal Shed, who has probably seen the most zone out of anybody on the Raptors. Like, the zone used to be like, okay, the Raptors used to face zone with their second unit, and obviously Jamal's always leading the second unit, but like, you're even seeing zones against the Raptors starters now. And, the Raptors just didn't, like, they just lose their aggressiveness. I think they have some, basic plays that they want to get into where, they want to have somebody, usually Scottie, screen in the middle of the floor and then, slip to that little open pocket around the free throw line extended. And they want to get him the ball in that area. But, they weren't really doing that particularly well. They're also settling for these threes. Jamal also tried driving against the zone and had to go for these like really long finger rolls that just don't have a high percentage. And ultimately, like, you just saw such a reduced impact in how much the Raptors affected the paint. First off, they were playing in half court because the Pacers were scoring. But like, the Raptors also weren't going to the basket. They weren't getting offensive rebounds. They were mostly settling for outside shots. And like, the major issue with the Raptors all season has just been like their 3-point shooting has been consistent. Tonight, it actually woke up, and credit to Jamal for knocking down a 3. The Pacers had gotten the lead all the way down to 4 points, and like the crowd was into it, and it was like, okay, like we've lost the momentum. And, credit Jamal, who actually did hit a 3 against the zone. That pushed the lead back up to 7 points, and then Brandon Ingram hit back-to-back threes to push it to 10 and basically end the game there, because that was back to, the lead went back to 10 points, and there was like 2 minutes left. But yeah, I just thought the process against the zone wasn't particularly strong. They weren't as aggressive, and that's something that no matter what teams are throwing at them, like, and no matter how the Raptors want to counter, it's not even about the specific tactics of how they want to counter, but if they go into the mentality where they're not being aggressive and they don't want to play fast, and they're not being physical in their motions of like screening and getting to the floor and looking to attack and get into the paint, like it's always going to cut you short. But ultimately, yeah, the zone was a real problem, and that was really the only thing that got the Pacers going. Again, on the defensive side, I thought the Raptors did a great job in terms of how they managed the game. I mean, again, the main three threats that you're looking for are Pascal, Andrew Nembhard, and then of course TJ McConnell off the bench. To varying, I thought that like the Raptors did a great job on all three guys. I mean, with Pascal, he got into foul trouble, so the Raptors definitely attacked him a bunch. There was like at least 3 or 4 layups that Pascal let walk by him because he didn't want to pick up his 5th foul. Again, that probably informed a little bit of the zone from Rick Carlisle, but yeah, I mean, the Raptors guarded him well. 10 of 23 from the field. He shot and made 4 threes, 4 of 11, so you got to hand it to Pascal. It's not to say that you're just going to leave him wide open for 3, but ultimately, we know where Pascal's most dangerous, right? In the paint, using the spin move, using his height, offensive rebounds, leak outs. Like, that's where he's most effective, and you're actually mostly okay if he's settling for threes. He's shooting a good percentage, so, like, again, the 4 of 11 is not even a surprise for him. But I thought the Raptors did a really good job keeping out the paint. I mean, Nembhard, you're worried about his ability to drive to the basket. It helped that he couldn't really knock down the 3 tonight, but it wasn't like the Raptors gave him a lot of room to operate. Jamal was all over him. And then when they had to switch, and a lot of times against point guards, you're like looking at late possessions where you might have to switch a little bit, as they look to get something going. I mean, again, I counted at least like 4 times where CMB switched on to Nembhard one-on-one on an island. And Nembhard is so tricky, man, but CMB did a great job sliding his feet. The Raptors also, as a group, did a really good job of defensive rebounding, just keeping the Pacers off the offensive glass. Guys like, and again, the Raptors didn't have a lot of size tonight, but, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Colin Murray-Boyles. I mean, even coming off the bench, Gradey Dick had 11 rebounds. Like, just guys were really attacking the glass and preventing those second chances. And then ultimately, TJ McConnell is like the one you're super worried about. I mean, he single-handedly led the comeback last time the Raptors played the Pacers, and that's why it got to the point where Brandon Ingram had to hit the game winner on their heads, was because TJ McConnell was like single-handedly dragging them back from the dead. And I thought Jamal actually played him pretty well, but especially because Jamal was starting and TJ was coming off the bench, like they needed their secondary guys to do a good job, and that's where I thought Scottie Barnes took shifts on him. I thought Ochai Agbaji did a really good job guarding him as well. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you tell me TJ McConnell only has 8 points, I'm just breathing a sigh of relief, because I know how much terror he can inflict, really, with his energy and sort of how much he's aggressive and leads that second unit. So like they managed the game really well, and granted, like, yeah, it did get close, and certain guys did get free. I mean, it felt like the Pacers did get momentum. I think part of that is also just the Raptors started so strong, and it's natural that you're not going to keep up that type of energy the entire game. I do wonder if the Raptors got a little bit more tired as well, especially considering they were on such a short rotation. They had Jamison Battle start tonight, but unfortunately Battle left the game in the third quarter after turning his ankle, his right ankle. It didn't look like too bad of an ankle sprain, but he did ultimately get ruled out for the game. So hopefully he's okay, because the last thing the Raptors need is more injuries. But like, the rotation was pretty short tonight, you know what I mean? And AJ Lawson got in there for a couple of minutes. Elijah Martin got in there for a couple of minutes. The two-ways are kind of, being called upon in basically dire duty right now. But realistically, like, you needed your main guys to be extended. And a couple of things. I mean, Scottie basically felt like he played the entire second half. I mean, he played 38 minutes tonight, which isn't that many. Like, it's a lot, but it's not that many. But you notice that Darko took Scottie out to start the fourth quarter, and he immediately put him back into the game when the Pacers started putting it down to single digits. And again, when they were zoning and stuff, they really needed all the energy and all the fight that Scottie Barnes had tonight. And of course, Scottie always saves a little extra for the Pacers. There's definitely a little bit of a rivalry between him and Pascal. And you continue to see the best from Scottie when he plays the Pacers. It's probably one of the best matchups he has. Part of that is also just like the physicality and rim protection from the Pacers is not usually there. So Scottie's able to just like punish his way. I mean, he must have had like 3 or 4 just like two-handed poster dunks going to the basket. One strong to the hoop all the time. Got fouled 9 times as well. Like, Scottie was just awesome. And then, of course, once he got into the paint, he was also dishing it off to CMB, kicking out for threes. He had 6 assists to Gradey. Like, just the threat of Scottie driving was like the main thrust in what the Raptors did offensively tonight. But again, like, you also saw a really nice game from Brandon Ingram. Brandon, again, had the game winner against the Pacers the last time they saw each other, and they tried to play him single coverage. There were times where Brandon settled, and I think, it's so hard to define what's settling for Brandon Ingram when he can make so many tough shots. It's like relative, right? If you see like Jamal Shed shooting a turnaround jumper, you're like, okay, that you're settling, right? But like, if you see Brandon Ingram shooting a turnaround jumper, you're like, okay, that's a shot. You know what I mean? So there were moments, but ultimately, like, he was just cooking his matchup all night, getting to the basket. The Pacers also, did a good job of like getting multiple guys to contest at the rim. And I think one of the big differences is Scottie kind of like was strong enough to blast through the defenders and finish through contact. And, sometimes the whistle came, sometimes it didn't. Obviously, you got 9 free throws, but ultimately he was just like going all the way hard to the basket. Brandon was going hard to the hoop too, but he's just not as strong as Scottie. And there were a lot of moments in the first half where the Pacers were able to wall up with like 3 guys and really, force a miss at the basket. So I'm not even too worried about the shooting percentage. Granted, he was 12 of 23, which is, pretty good. It's over 500. And yeah, he also knocked down those 2 threes late. He also hit a turnaround jumper late. Like, basically, like, there was a play where Brandon kept trying to get a screen from Gradey Dick to force a mismatch. First time it didn't work out, had to get the screen the second time. Basically dribbled the clock for like 20 seconds. And then it looked like the Pacers did a great job of just maintaining their matchups. And then Brandon just like hits a turnaround jumper at the end there. And the Pacers are like, all right, timeout. Let's take our guys out. The game's over. You know what I mean? So, it's what you want a closer to do, basically. I mean, and saying he was a closer, I mean, he was great throughout the game, but especially in crunch time when they really needed a bucket and they took the pain away and they played a lot of zone. Brandon just confidently stepping into those threes. Again, like it just shut the door in their face. This is not quite the game winner he hit last time, but it was still great. And of course, the story of the game is Gradey Dick. I mean, man, how happy are we for Gradey Dick, man? This guy's had such a tough season. It's been a lot of disappointments in terms of what he could do coming into his third year. Even on opening night, remember he had like 21 on opening night against the Hawks, and you're like, wow, this guy's going to be like our 6th man coming off the bench. And, like that was expectation. He was going to be the 6th man. And obviously he's had trouble throughout the year finding the 3. And tonight he didn't even shoot the 3 well. He was 1 of 5 from 3. But, I mean, forget how it happened. It was just like really good to see him contribute and play with confidence, and his teammates looked to pick him up. Last game when you saw the Raptors play the Sixers, there's a play where Gradey Dick missed a 3, and he was screaming at himself, man. And you just don't expect that from Gradey Dick. Like, Gradey is such a chill, calm, like, he's just a little chill dude, you know what I mean? Like, what else you want to say? Like, he's this little silly goose who's like the, youngest of all the siblings in his family, and kid grew up in the Midwest, and, he makes funny TikToks, and you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of his thing. And you rarely see that level of frustration. He plays hard, he plays tough, but like you don't see him frustrated at much, and especially not at himself. And to see that, I was just like, damn. Like, I feel like his teammates kind of saw it too. I mean, Brandon Ingram mentioned it before or after the game too, in the walk-off interview with Kayla, where he talked about how, like, Gradey was the first guy in the gym this morning, and he put in a lot of work. And whatever he did, man, it really did help. I think just for him to play free and confident, because like that's how you gotta be. Like, Gradey Dick is a free flowing dude, man. Like, he's a free bird. You know what I mean? You just gotta let this kid go. And there's obviously it's harder to play with that latitude in terms of like being able to be aggressive when you're like coming off the bench and Raptors are in tighter games, and like there's other guys you could turn to. Like, obviously if he's struggling, maybe we can go to Jacoby, or if he's struggling, maybe we go to Jamison Battle or even Ochai at times. But he hasn't played well. Like, I'm not trying to take like the accountability off of him. Like, everybody's been right to criticize how great he's played. But on a human level, it's just great to see him like perform. And tonight, a lot of it was just him showing his scoring instincts by, coming to screen. Again, they usually stick the weakest defender on Gradey, and so the Raptors were trying to get the mismatch by having him screen for Scottie. I thought Gradey did a really good job of like understanding when to sort of like screen firmly, when to slip away from the screens, just making good reads off of those. It helped that Scottie was making such great passes, just diming him over the top. And then, yeah, Gradey just did a great job finishing. Like, he played tough. He went to the basket. He, played through foul calls. He was just, like, doing what you needed him to do. And, of course, he knocked down a 3 finally, which was nice to see as well. And primarily, he's got knocked down the 3s. But, I thought he was just playing super energetic. Even the rebounds tonight were really impressive. Like the amount of times Gradey Dick got up there in a crowd and just collected the rebound. Um, 11 rebounds tonight. That actually qualifies as his first career triple or double double. So congrats to Gradey on that too, with 21 and 11. But the other part was just there was a play where I forget who missed the free throw. Maybe it was Scottie, but maybe I think Scottie missed a free throw, and Gradey Dick was above the 3-point line. Like he wasn't one of the two rebounders under the basket. He like flew in and got the offensive rebound from above the 3-point line, like one of those MJ style rebounds. It was like, or Scottie Pippen style rebounds. It was like, damn, like you could just tell like that, and that's all effort. That's all effort. That's all dedication and focus. And he played with the perfect mix of energy and scoring and playmaking tonight. I just thought that like this is what you needed to see. And look, some of that like schematically, maybe the Raptors could run more of these actions where they have like Scottie with the ball and they'll give they'll put Gradey in a screening action. One way to make a guy score is to put him in ball screens. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of goes with everybody, but obviously Gradey showed tonight that he has a good touch and a good sense of how to operate. I don't think this ultimately works against most teams, but nevertheless, like you could involve him a little bit more. But at the same time, I think it was just also the freedom that he played with tonight. And there's got to be such a sense of relief from him, man. There is a good player there. Like we saw last year, the start of last season, it was exhilarating watching Gradey Dick, run around and, make decisions and hunt for his own shots. Like tonight he hit a step back. One of his actually, it's not a signature move because he doesn't do it enough to call it that, but he does a move that he does often where he'll drive one way, see the like literally just like one dribble one way, see the defender trying to cut him off, and then cross back over and just pull up for the three. Like he did that tonight. He was inside the line, so it was a long two, but like stuff like that. That's all confidence. That's all rhythm. Him coming on transition and stuff. He always does that, and he certainly knew how to finish, and all that was good. But like, yeah, really, really good, and especially in the first half because I think he had I think he had like 17 in the first half. And I was feeling like he was tracking to have a season high at least for scoring, but ultimately he tied that. But yeah, I mean he played great. And again, if the Raptors don't have his effort, Ochai's effort coming off the bench as well, Ochai with some nice blocks using athleticism to block TJ McConnell feels extra satisfying considering how much of a pest he is. Like all of that was really good. And I think for Gradey in particular, like just try to use this and build off of it, man. I mean, there's gonna be opportunities for him. The Raptors, despite having a million shooting guards, there's also injuries, right? You look at right now, no RJ Barrett tonight, no Jacoby Walter, Jamison Battle leaves the game. It's like, we need you tonight. And Gradey Dick on the night where the Raptors needed him, came out, delivered, played confident. He played like he's been hot all season. And hopefully it's hard to do that because like, I don't know. I mean, you got to like mentally trick yourself, right? Because Gradey has been not hot all season. He's been in a funk like crazy, but like, if you're going to be that 6-man type of guy, you got to have no conscience, man. And I know Grady's talked about it a few times, like the next shot mentality. It's just like, you're not worried about sort of what happened. You're always going to confidently shoot the next shot. But, you're also seeing Gradey like press a lot this season and overthink it. And look, man, he's just one of those guys you got to give the freedom to, you know what I mean? And that's when you're going to get the best out of him, because when he's pressing, when he's trying to not make mistakes, he's not going to play well. And that's what we've seen a lot this season. So for his sake, I was really relieved that, the Raptors got the win. So we're going to take a quick break. We are going to get to your questions, and we are also obviously going to bring you the pictures of the team post victory as well. But first, let's bring you a message from one of our beloved sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by Table Fare and Social. Get your pregame bites and after-work drinks at Table.
It's a great location, right across the street from the arena and just steps away from Union Station and the Metrolinx bus terminal.
Well, I love my wedge salad, but there's plenty of options at Table. What should we have next?
Oh, we could have salad for days, my friend.
Oh, you're talking about salad days? I love salad days, man. They got a different salad for every day of the week. You can never get tired of the options there.
Oh yeah, I heard about this place. This was your go-to lunch spot forever. You always said the lettuce was so crispy.
Man, it's so crispy and fresh, and now this can be your go-to meal before Raptors games.
I like that. Grab a pregame salad at Table Fare and Social right across from the arena. All right. We're going to get to your questions, but first, we got to address who got the chain. And of course, Gradey Dick got the chain, man. I'm so happy for him, man. Look at him. Look at Gradey Dick with the chain. Elijah is smiling behind him. Ochai, maybe was unprepared for this photo. But yeah, Gradey Dick, man. Super. That flash was going off for Gradey Dick. Damn, he's shining in this photo. But yeah, I'm happy for him, man. I think this might be the first game all year he got the chain. So, there's, Brandon's got the chain a ton. Scottie's got the chain the most. Jamal's got the chain. IQ, RJ. I think Yak got the chain, back when Jakob existed. I'm happy that guys get a turn, and Gradey tonight certainly deserved it. They do not get the win without Gradey, even though, like, obviously he wasn't the best player tonight. Scottie was and Brandon was, but it's okay. The chain's about, giving a little confidence to the guys, and nobody needed this confidence a little bit more than Gradey Dick. I'm looking forward to the team pick. I'm really hoping that the entire team did the signature Gradey Dick flex. That's my hope, is that when that photo drops, we will see the entire team doing the Gradey Dick pose. He could use a little picking up, and as teammates, I know this team's super close. I know that everyone loves Gradey on the team. Like, there's really he's a lovable guy, but if there's any time to pick someone up, this would be the guy to pick up. So, all right, let's get to your questions. As always, you can leave them in the chat. We have super producer Karem combing through all your questions and taking the best ones. First, we'll get through the money here. First off, Arsh sends in $2. Appreciate you. Scottie Barnes looking like magic with the dimes. Yeah, Scottie was sick tonight, man. I mean, 13 assists for Scottie Barnes, along with 26 points, was just a sensational. And when he applies that paint pressure, and of course, like tonight, there was no IQ, and yes, Jamal's in there, but like basically Scottie was playing point guard for like even more than usual. And this was a matchup that he really liked. He felt really confident going into the paint. He knew he was stronger and bigger and badder than everybody else out there. So, he was like taking it to the basket as much as possible. And when you put that much pressure on the paint, that's where the defense is going to be converging on you. And Scottie was doing a great job. And, it's funny because it wasn't even like Scottie was hitting the paint and then like spraying out for threes. Because that's typically how these like big like combo wing guard, like, forward guards, whatever you want to call them, like, they typically do it. Like the Raptors tonight was just doing a really good job of like, giving like little options to Scottie. Like, so when Scottie would drive, like CMB would like slightly relocate along the baseline to make himself open for the pass, and then CMB would dunk it. Or like Gradey Dick was like screening and slipping off of those and getting into little pockets. So they were being very smart about the whole thing. And it really required Scottie to make a variety of passes. Even the one that, with the plethora of assists he had to Gradey tonight, a lot of those, like, you got to keep your dribble alive. You got to be able to see over the defense, and you got to pass over the top. And of course, that's one of the many benefits of having like a big 6'9" playmaker, is just like you could just throw it over the top. And that's where, some of the comparisons to Magic, like I'm sure, like obviously Magic is like the archetype for this, right? So it makes perfect sense. But like, that's part of his advantage was, you look at Magic Johnson's highlight reel. I mean, obviously this is like one of the best highlight reels, of all time, really. But like, you're seeing a lot of passes where he's just like zipping it past people's heads. And obviously if you're a shorter guy, you can't really do that as much. So we also got money from Tyler, who sends in money every game. Appreciate you. Enjoy the win tonight. Send Scottie and BI to the All-Star game. Not game related, but thoughts on IQ, RJ, and Yak involved in trade packages for AD talks. Yeah, I mean, the Raptors continue to be linked to Anthony Davis. That continues to be the most consistent rumor around the team. The Raptors kind of have thrown their hats in the ring for a lot of things. Jake Fisher continues to report that they're interested in Domantas Sabonis, which gives me a lot of heartburn, really, because I don't want to see that happen. The Anthony Davis thing is interesting because obviously he's injured once again, surprise, surprise. And there was a bit of like confusion last night where, Shams was tweeting that he's probably gonna have surgery and it's gonna rule him out for the season. And then AD himself like woke up and actually went on Twitter for the first time in a long time and actually just pushed back on the report and said that he's going to be back. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it seems like he may be able to come back in like March, and obviously the trade deadline is early February. So, you are trading for a guy that you need to incorporate into your team. But yeah, I mean, like the Raptors have only a couple of trade pieces. Number one, they need to improve at point guard and they need to improve at center, right? That's the clear thing. Like the Raptors keep getting tied to point guards and centers, right? That's the rumor mill. So obviously if you're going to improve on those positions, you're probably going to send out one of those guys, right? So let's say you're going to trade for AD, you probably need to put IQ in there or Jakob in there. The other part is you got to match salaries, right? And how many movable salaries do you really have? There's certain guys that Like AD, for example, he makes like 55, 56 million. Like, you got to put in 2 starters to even match that kind of money. So, you're obviously not moving Scottie, you're not moving Brandon. So, yeah, the other guys got to be involved. Quite frankly, I don't really want to see an RJ move put in there, partially because of the fact that, like, I just think that I feel like my opinion of RJ, and maybe even the general fan base opinion of RJ, is just higher than maybe the team's opinion of RJ, which is just a strange thing to say, to be fair. But the Raptors just never feel that hot on RJ. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's not like, you never hear like, oh, they're looking to extend him. They see him as a long-term piece. Even small things like pushing him for All-Star. I mean, this year he was injured, but even last year, leading the team in All-Star in scoring. Even if it's a lie, you gotta go on that lie. But you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much standard. It's free basically to promote anybody who leads the team in scoring for the All-Star game, regardless. Like, I'm just saying, there just doesn't feel like there's like that much of a thought to like keep RJ long term. It almost feels like to me similar to like the Norm Powell situation. Like, RJ's kind of destined to be the next Norm. But like, yeah, like if the team's position is that they don't feel that they want to extend RJ, then you have this window now between now and the end of his contract, which will be after next year. Like, you do have a window to sort of trade him. Also, he has more trade value than Jakob and IQ. Jakob and IQ probably right now are both negative value contracts, right? I would argue, especially with AD, the injury history, like, he might be a slightly negative contract. Like, he might be closer to neutral. I think the Trae Young trade market really showed that there's just not a lot of appetite out there for teams to spend long-term money on players. And in particular, even though they're star players, you may only get expirings for them. Like, I'm curious to see what John Morant gets them, because a couple years ago, you would look at John Morant, you were like, okay, if you want to trade for John Morant, you need like 3 first-round picks or whatever, at least, and then you talk about some prospects and some money, whatever. The expirings, like the typical things that every team wants when they're trading a star. But like, you look at it now, it's like, I'll bet you that the Memphis Grizzlies get more for what they got for Desmond Bane than what they got for John Morant if they eventually trade Ja. You know what I mean? So the trade market is just like really low on stars right now. Granted, that could be a good thing. Like, the Raptors have been known to buy low on stars. We just did that with Brandon. They could do that here with AD, but you'd have to really be confident that you're getting, like, you have some sort of inside edge to keep AD healthy. And I know we have the Alex McKechnie and his entire staff, and they've done a great job with managing Brandon this year. He's only missed like 2 games, and Kawhi previously. So like, you could talk me into that, but like, the AD thing is partially, I'm like, there's an advantage maybe if you want to get rid of long-term contracts. Like, if you don't feel like IQ and Jakob are long-term fits for you, even though you've signed them to long-term contracts, then getting off their contracts right now in one fair swoop with AD allows you to sort of compete, but also kind of like not tie yourself into long-term money. I get that. But also, it's hard for me to believe that when you're most likely, any team trading for AD is most likely amenable to extending him beyond his current deal. And I know his deal runs past next year as well, so it's not a today problem, but it probably is a today problem if you're going to bring in a guy, right? So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think there's certainly a lot of value in bringing in Anthony Davis. I mean, I'm just thinking about how good defensively we can be with like Scottie Barnes, CMB, Anthony Davis. Like, even just, man, I mean, damn. I don't know if you can play the 3 of those guys together, but even playing 2 of those guys together at all times would be like just incredible defensively. And of course, the Raptors need size, but this one's so tricky. You could talk me into it. You could talk me out of it. I think ultimately I'm a little risk averse, so I probably wouldn't do this, but yeah, I don't know, but there's definitely interest. I mean, they keep sort of linking him to that. And by the way, it's not going to be no like 80 for $70 million super max. That's not going to happen, man. Like, we did the same shit last year when people were like, oh, they're trading for Brandon Ingram, you're going to give him a max contract. And I remember reporting back then, I'm like, it's not going to be a max extension. It's going to be shorter than the max term. And obviously it was with the 2+1 deal with the player option at the end. And then it was not for the max amount. It starts at 38 this year. You know what I mean? Like, no team's getting AD 70 million. I don't even think AD will get 50 million on the next contract. I mean, as good as Clutch and Rich Paul and the influence and everything that they have, I think AD is getting like 40, like 45. You know what I mean? Like, at most. You know what I mean? So, yeah. All right, let's get to a couple other questions. Oh, appreciate you, Tyler, for sending the money in. Yeah, some of these away locker rooms look so bad for multi-billion-dollar organizations. Yeah, here's a team pick. Oh, we got the whole team flexing. What the hell? We did it. We did it. Oh, yes. So happy for Gradey here, man. I mean, obviously the team's short a lot of guys, so we don't have a lot of guys on the team right now. But like the whole team is flexing. I guess except for except for Garrett Temple, who for one time is not in the suit. So get well soon, Garrett, with the bad back. But yeah, I mean, Gradey finally hit the Super Saiyan, man. He hit the Super Saiyan. He changed the pose finally. He goes for the double arm flex instead of like the his usual pose. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy the whole team's doing this too, man. Because again, like everyone loves Gradey in that locker room. Especially the season's long and stuff like that. He keeps the things lights in there, and like everybody likes his personality, and everyone knows when he's struggling, man. You don't have to tell players that they're struggling. You know what I mean? And yeah, just it's any little thing to sort of pick him up, and I'm happy that the whole team basically picked up an idea to do the flex with Gradey, and it's cool to see Gradey level up from his usual pose to like the this new one here. So yeah, man, happy for him, man. And Bi flexing a big smile. Yeah. Bi's walk-off interview, man. That was a good one. The cadence was so slow on that, man. It was great. Let's just leave this up here because this is good vibes. Shouts to Gradey, man. Yeah, I mean, a couple things. 23 shots while being hounded on defense is wild. That's the thing with Brandon. Like that's part of the reason you bring him in, right? Like you think about last season and the years before that, when the Raptors were like 25 wins, 30 wins. Obviously, they were tanking as a group. There was lots of other problems, but one of the clear issues with the team was they just don't have like a central focus on offense. Guys who can get you a half-court bucket on a consistent basis. They hoped IQ could have been that guy. They had some hope that RJ could have been that guy. At times, RJ did that. Even smaller, moments, IQ did that. Scottie's already doing so much, and it feels like if you're going to make him do all that offensively, then you're going to maybe get a little bit less defensively. I mean, ultimately, whatever. Like Scottie's giving you two-way play as good as anybody in the league. So obviously that's been huge. But getting Brandon in here to like, show what scoring looks like, give them a focus in crunch time. I know Brandon's percentages aren't even that strong in crunch time, but it's just a level of comfort, man. You look at the way his teammates just like force the ball to Brandon Ingram in crunch time. I mean, it's not even the greatest thing. I'm telling you, like it's probably hurting him and the team a little bit, but it just speaks to like how comfortable it is to have a guy who's like a cheat code scoring wise, and Brandon, tonight was, getting covered in single coverage. I mean, obviously that's going to get him more chances, but you look at some of the shots Brandon makes, like we're talking about like tall, maybe even life-size defenders, and they're playing him hard as hell, and they're cutting him off, and like any other player, it's like a stop. And then for Brandon, he's just like, all right, I guess this is as far as I'm going to go. 18-footer, here we go, turnaround, fade away. It's like, it's almost Dirk-like in a way, you know what I mean? Like it's some of these things you can't really stop. And yeah, like I just there's a level of skill with Brandon and his scoring that is just like so special, man. And it was fun to see. Another thing that we had here too was damn, we need a point guard like Nembhard. Yeah, I mean, what when you really think back to it, the Raptors had they could have drafted Nembhard, I guess, if they didn't make that trade for Thad Young. Whatever, you can go back to history, whatever. He ultimately, I think, went 31st or 32nd to the Pacers. The Raptors drafted like 33rd that year and took Koloko. I had it on good knowledge that the Raptors were going to draft Koloko regardless. I felt like they really, really loved Koloko, and that was part of the guys that they targeted, and whatever. So maybe if Andrew wasn't drafted by the Pacers, I don't even know if the Raptors would have drafted him then. But yeah, I mean, Andrew's he's obviously like a great player, man. I mean, even it's funny because you look at his regular season numbers, they're never that impressive. I mean, this year, obviously, with a lot of guys out, Halliburton in particular, his numbers have gone up, his usage has gone up. But like a lot of this stuff is like not new for him, right? Like he continues to sort of be at this level, and of course, when he hits the playoffs, like, I mean, give me a playoff riser. You know what I mean? When you think about playoff risers, like Nembhard's got to be on that list. Aaron Gordon's got to be on that list. Like like these type of guys, you can go to war with, and they're tough defensively. They know how to get a tough bucket, but they also know how to play in that team scheme. Like the one thing with Nembhard is the 3-point shot is inconsistent. But like he just does a lot of really great stuff for you, man. And then of course the pressure he puts on the paint, the ability to get a one-on-one bucket, like that's something that's like, I don't know. I guess people don't say this enough about like the Ontario guards that we've produced in this system. And credit to all the coaches, the youth programs here in Canada. But like, one thing you could say about all these guards that have come out through our Canadian developmental pipeline is like we got like every one of these guards got a mid range game, and it's fun to watch, man. Like Shea obviously has like the best mid range in the game basically right now. So that goes without saying. But like Andrew got a mid range game, Nikhil got a mid range game. You know, to watch Dylan Brooks, a lot of Dylan Brooks. Like, yes, he's shooting catch and shoot threes, but like a lot of like turnaround jumpers and like bump fades. They play tough. You know, RJ doesn't really use the mid range game much, and to be fair, he's not that great of a shooter off the dribble, but he's got a really good in between game with the floaters, the offhands, the getting to the basket. Like we just have a lot of guards that like know how to score. They're not just like flat out 3-and-D guys or guys that just pump in a bunch of threes and get the scoring that way. Like I don't know, whatever it is, man, but it's damn near like an Ontario basketball tradition at this point to produce players of this kind of ilk. And Andrew obviously is one of those guys that fits into that whole group. So yeah, we'll love Andrew on this team. He's on a good contract as well, but I think the Pacers love Andrew way more than the Raptors love Andrew. So I don't think we're getting Andrew, but it is what it is. A lot of Shed's weaknesses were exposed here today. You know what? I think that's like fair to some degree. Like yes and no. Like obviously, when they needed scoring from Jamal, he wasn't able to deliver. Like tonight, he was 2 of 9 from the field for 7 points. I think the biggest weakness that it really exposes is like his ineffectiveness against the zone. Tonight he went in for a lot of like little jump hooks and floaters and push shots. Those just didn't really drop for him. He can hit those, but ultimately, he wasn't really able to connect on a lot of those tonight. And of course, the outside shot from 3 was not dropping for him. That's something where hopefully with more time he's able to grow and develop into. But Jamal, don't forget, Jamal's also one of the older rookies as well, or older sophomores. I think he's like 23, maybe 24. So, I know IQ's been in the league a lot longer and people look at it, but IQ's only like 2 years older. But IQ has definitely like a much more refined offensive scoring game. Now, granted, Jamal has the advantages on the defensive end. Jamal's able to, touch the paint and play make a little bit better than IQ does off the live dribble. But, there's a reason why like he's been the reserve and IQ's been the starter. I know there's been a lot of calls for both just to switch it up. And I think people get disappointed with IQ, particularly with the money and the contract, whatever, man. I mean, it's not unreasonable to critique IQ, but I also just do think that IQ is a straight up better player than Jamal right now. And I want to start my better player. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's something for Jamal to work into. The consistency with the outside shot. One thing you notice with Jamal is that his hand drifts off the ball a lot when he shoots. Sometimes his hands just fall apart after the shot. Like there's not very much holding the form. Sometimes at least obviously the drift on the release of the ball, so you're not shooting as straight as possible. I think the other part too is just like he against the zone. Like Jamal's biggest thing is he goes in with a lot of speed in the paint and he makes a lot of great passes in the pick and roll. Like tonight, especially early in the game, the way he was able to feed CMB, some of those passes are like when you think about a pass, like you got to have a window for the pass, you got to have a vision for the pass, and you got to understand how to deliver it. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a bounce, sometimes it's a jump pass over the top. Sometimes it's like a little shovel pass. Sometimes it's just a more simple pass, like whatever. But you got to understand how to manage that gap and find the rhythm and the timing of it. They did a great job of it tonight, man. And I think that's something that Jamal has. That's something that like IQ doesn't fully have in terms of just like being more aggressive with the pass. And I thought Jamal did a good job setting guys up. But yeah, I mean, as soon as zones hit, like that's where you see Jamal start to struggle, and that's where the next step is for him. You know what I mean? He's a second-year player. Like he's gonna have to adapt and grow. And learn with a lot of it too. I mean, that's part of the reason why the team struggles with zone. I think it happens mostly to the second unit. The starters don't really feel as worried about the zone. I also feel like if you have a big, this is partially why you miss a big out there too, because like you got in the middle of the floor, you get some rotations, and then you got that big like opening up. Like sometimes the Raptors like to go along the baseline, make a little cut, and have one of their guards like slash the basket, or a cut to the basket. But like, imagine having a big there, and you don't even have to like jump over somebody to catch an alley-oop. You can just throw it to a big who has inside position and lays it up. You know what I mean? Like that's where not having size, I think, also hurts you a little bit too. So, yeah. Scottie and CMB are going to terrorize NBA offenses for the next decade. The league ain't ready. I mean, this is a great defensive backbone to have, man. Just, again, the ability for both these guys to switch, the deflections. Tonight CMB only had 1 block, no steals. It didn't really feel like that when you're watching it, though, because he had so many deflections, especially at the start of the game, how they, established the intensity and the tone on the defensive end. Just having 2 incredibly strong guys who are able to have quick feet, like that's such a hack, man. To like have long arms, strong cores, and then just quick feet. Like and they're both smart too. That's the thing. And so yeah, seeing them play together of late, I know obviously it sucks to not have Jakob. I think when Jakob's back, obviously CMB goes back to the bench, but like, I don't mind. The only thing is like when they run into like true 7-footers, like with Embiid, they couldn't really neither of them could really do much with it. But luckily, there's only a couple Embiids in the league, right? So that's how the Raptors keep getting away with the small ball stuff. In terms of the zones, yeah, Scottie is a fantastic zone buster. He knows how to get to the middle. He also loves that mid-range shot too. So like when guys give him that little free throw line jumper, he loves taking it. But yeah, like yes, Scottie is a fantastic zone breaker. I mean, I thought of it as just a playmaking and passing. To be honest, it's like the Raptors, and I've said this before, but like based on the way they play, they shouldn't really be a team that struggles as much against the zone. This is not like usually teams that struggle against the zone are like iso ball teams or like teams that play a lot of pick and roll. And they have a lot of really dangerous like slashers coming off the dribble, and you're not really able to protect the rim in time. And there's 3-point shooters to spray out to and stuff like that. And you're basically just not able to contain the ball. Like the zone basically gives a huge advantage to containing the ball, but the Raptors are not really a team that, I mean, they love to pass already, right? Like this is a team that gives 30 assists every night. We don't even mention it when the Raptors hit 30 assists. They do it every night basically, but like they know obviously how to move the ball, but I think a lot of it is just like the Raptors wonky outside shooting is certainly a factor in this sense. And of course you saw it tonight when the Raptors finally beat the zone is because they hit 3 straight threes. I mean, that should happen a lot against the zone. The other part too is just like they gotta like always feed Scottie in the middle of the floor when they're in a zone. That's always going to be the first step to unlocking like a good play. You know what I mean? And so small stuff like that. But ultimately, yeah, I think part of that is also on the point guard too. I think Jamal really could improve on how he covers the zone. And, it is what it is, what else we got? What do you think of Grady's shot mechanic? I think that he can become a great shooter in this league if he tweaks his release a little bit. Something in that shot release looks a little bit off. So, yeah, Gradey has the release where he like slings it over his head and he kind of like has like a forward sort of momentum to the shot. I think okay, so a very different example in terms of like how to shoot, for example, is IQ, right? IQ has like a very like firm base. He usually like does an extra toe tap or even extra dribble to like get his base even wider. And then he's able to like shoot from here. And it's like, it doesn't even fully extend. Like he doesn't extend his arm fully straight on the release, but he's able to like do the sliding motion where it's like mostly vertical through this portion. Like it's between, basically between your shoulder, up until like it's like slightly above your head, you know what I mean? And that vertical motion, that like basically 2 feet of like push on the shot is like probably the most important part in terms of getting the arc on the shot and then getting it to go into the net. Obviously, Gradey has a really high release, which has the forward swing. So the good thing with that is it allows him to get the shots up over other guys. He has a much higher release point. Like IQ, part of the reason he can't always put up huge 3-point attempts is because he's loading from a lower spot and he's shooting basically in front of his face. So, the release point is lower. But Gradey, obviously, in addition to being taller, he like flings it over the top and he flings the ball. A lot of that, his shooting, his shot in particular relies on touch. And I know that's kind of silly to say because like everyone's shot relies on touch. But I think in particular with Gradey, like so much of it is just touch, like he actually has like pretty good like feel for like how to finger roll, how to finish, how to use the glass. You see a lot of his transition finishes where he's running full speed. He's still able to get to a composed finish. A lot of that is just touch, and touch is like, it's difficult to quantify, but you know it when you see it, I mean? Like a lot of bigs obviously lack touch, Shaq, Dwight Howard, like these guys lack touch, but for Gradey, like, the little sling jumper, I think it's really good from the mid range. Like he's always been better from the mid range than he has from 3. And again, it's a totally different skill set. But I do feel like with the forward sling release, one of the issues with that is, number one, if obviously you're shooting from 3-point line, you're shooting from further out. But it also means that like you're not always getting, like you kind of have to calibrate no matter where you're shooting it from. You know what I mean? Like it can't just be the consistent like release. Like Battle, no matter if he's shooting a 30-footer or he's shooting right on the line, he's shooting the same form and the same release, because it's mostly about how much arc he gets onto it. And Battle's another guy, even though he's a left-handed shooter, he does the same thing with IQ in terms of just like having a pretty straight release in front of the body. Grady's like fling you really have to adjust it basically based on how far you shoot it out from. Now, granted, whatever you say, all this like Grady was excellent shooter in college, and he has been like a really good shooter at times. He's more streaky than anything else in the NBA, but I do think there's probably a couple of small things that he can sort of improve on in terms of just like getting the right arc onto the shot, and maybe even just like, it would be a pretty strong reconstruction to turn him from like a slingshot shooter to like a push shooter, but maybe finding an in between so that there's less variation. Do you know what I mean? Because like you're basically having to adjust it every single time based on how much distance you go with it. So, I mean, that's a very amateur version of like what a shot doctor might say about this. This is just from me learning how to shoot the three, and I was like, it's one of my goals in the pandemic was to learn how to shoot a basketball. And now when I play pickup basketball, my primary role is shooting. So I do put a lot of thought into like how to shoot. And I'm much more of like a front sort of like, I'm more biased because like the way I shoot is not like a sling at all. But I do feel like there's advantages to sort of both approaches. And of course, if he just shoots more in front of the face, then sometimes it's a lot harder to get that shot off. But, I'm sure there's lots of tweaks and stuff like that. And, yeah, his whole story every time is like his mom taught him how to shoot and he's never changed it. And if you ask Grady, that's what he'll say. But, that gets you so far. I mean, it's gotten him really far, you know what I mean? But certainly in the long-term, outlooks of his career, he's got to really make sure he's able to hit threes at a huge clip, not just like a 35, like, okay, like this season he's at 30. Like tonight, he actually won a 5. He probably dropped even below 30. But like, yeah, I mean, it's got to be well north of 40. Most like shooting specialists are over 40, you know what I mean? Or they get up so many threes that they're like a constant threat. So, what else? I don't understand why Mobile isn't getting an opportunity with all these players out. 1 minute. Yeah, I mean, he's just a forgotten man. I've said this many times this season, but he is straight up just a forgotten man. It is what it is. I feel bad for him, but yeah, it is what it is. I'll die on this hill that Grady will turn the season around. He 100% has been frustrating, but I believe if he's not traded, he'll find a consistent groove. I think part of it is also getting enough play calls for him, right? Because obviously he's not a guy who like really is going to create his own shot. He's got to play off of the attention of other guys. And the easiest time to play off of other guys is to catch and shoot for three, okay? So part of this is on Grady because he was a great catch and shoot three-point shooter. Then, they will find more opportunities and he'll be more involved. So that's where he needs to improve on. But I also think that like, what they did tonight in terms of like doing having an inverted pick and roll, which is usually a small, screening for a big, which is what happened when he screened for Scottie a lot tonight. Like they could use more of that. Also last year at the start of the season, I mean, part of the reason he was so hot was because like Raptors had nobody else, man. Like who else are you going to call plays for? IQ was hurt. Scottie was hurt. RJ was out there with Yakov. They needed Grady to go out there and gun. And they gave him lots of plays. Like every out of bounds inbound, for example, inside, especially baseline out of bounds play, they ran every one of those for Grady. So, that allows him to get open more often. This year with Brandon Ingram coming in, he's taking up most of those opportunities. And obviously we would rather have Brandon Ingram do it. He's way better. But like, I think there's other factors that sort of, factor in. But ultimately, Grady's a role player right now. And the number one thing with role players is you don't get catered to. You just got to be most efficient with the opportunities you get. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it is what it is. You know what I mean? He had his time in the sun, and right now he didn't really have his time in the sun. So, what else, man? Oh yeah, here's the thing. Let's what else we got? Don't forget to vote for Scottie and BI. Yeah, so for people watching right now live, so it's like 10:30, so you still have an hour and a half. But yeah, you guys can all go to vote.nba.com, and I'll put the link up here actually. Vote.nba.com, and let's all do it together. Okay, I'll do it myself as well. We've been putting in votes on behalf of the Hello team, so let's do another vote here. We could do one as a family, but I encourage you guys to do this on your own as well. Again, like it just would be a great thing to sort of show love to our players and by sending them to the All-Star game with our votes. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Zoom. All right. Obviously, in the Eastern Conference, we're going to go for our guys. So Brandon Ingram, you're on the team. Scottie Barnes, you're on the team. All right. So that's 2 of our spots. Who else do you guys want from the Eastern Conference? All right. Who else do you guys want for the Eastern Conference? We want Kyle. We gave Kyle the vote last time, so we've been trying not to double up on some of these votes. I feel like we gave Norm a little love, and Norm actually is in direct contention with these guys. So I'm not gonna give him the vote, even though obviously all love to Norm Powell and everything like that. Let's see who else I've been enjoying watching in the Eastern Conference. Wow, it gets thin right away, huh? Peyton Pritchard. I think we actually gave him a vote already too. Streets want Norm. You guys, you got to understand how to strategic vote. Okay, we can't be voting for guys in direct contention with our guys. Okay, so we got to go more obscure. Okay, everyone wants Norm. Let's give Norm the vote. Yeah, shouts to Norm. I hope, honestly, Norm has a really good chance of making the All-Star game this year. He's averaging like 22, 23. And the Heat, they basically don't score without Norm. So let's put Norm and Powell in the game. He had a nice win last night. Bam Adebayo randomly knocked down 3 straight threes. So credit to him. But yeah, okay, so that's 3. We need 2 more spots. Again, guys, if we can vote more obscure, please, it would really help. Yeah, like I said, don't vote for Norm. That just takes a vote away from BI and Scottie. In this case, everyone wanted Norm, so we're gonna put it in there. Who do you want? Oh, Musa. Oh, you want Musa Diabate? Yeah, let's go. Hold on. Let's put Musa in the game. Here we go. Musa Diabate in the game. Do you hear this story? By the way, RJ was talking about how one, because they both played together at Montverde, and I think RJ was like a senior, and maybe Musa was like a sophomore, I think. But RJ gave him a pair of his shoes, and Musa apparently like cherished that thing like crazy and wore it all the time. I'm just like RJ, like that's just a very affectionate story to know about a guy. And I feel like we always had that one story, that especially if you grew up in Toronto, that random immigrant kid that like pops up in your class midway through the year. It's like January and he shows up. Actually, I was that kid, so maybe I'm just talking about myself. And then you're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm not from here. And all of a sudden you get embraced by the people there, and then you start feeling like you're a part of something. It's a very cool moment. So I thought it was a really nice thing for RJ to do that. You know what I mean? You know what? Let's put RJ in this game, man. Let's put RJ in this game. Raptors won't push RJ. We'll push RJ on this group. So that's our Eastern Conference picks. So we have Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, Norman Powell, Musa Diabate, and RJ Barrett. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, let's vote in the Western Conference, so there's less controversy. We can vote whoever we want in the Western Conference here. Let's get it started. I mean, you know what? For guys who hurt the Raptors the most, I got to put Austin Reeves in here. Austin Reeves had 42 against the Raptors in the Lakers win in Toronto. That was legendary, man. That was legendary. So I'm going to put him in the list. Streets want Bryce Sensabaugh. Yeah, Bryce has been killing it recently, man. Yeah, Bryce has been great. He's like this big bodied shooter. He's kind of like the second coming of Taylor Horton Tucker if THT could actually shoot, because he's actually a pretty good shooter. So yeah, Utah's actually had a lot of nice players step up recently. No one watches Utah, but they're actually pretty watchable these days. Dylan Brooks, I love Dylan Brooks. Let's put Dylan in the game. Dylan got himself Dylan was wilding out yesterday, man. He got a technical foul for I forget, some sort of overly physical play, and then he got a flagrant foul for dragging Andrew Wiggins to the ground on a closeout. I mean, it was, I don't know. Sometimes when you step on a line, when you're a line stepper like that, I don't know. That was a little disappointing. But Dylan has been playing great all season. He's been, along with Devin Booker, one of the main proponents of the success of that team. So let's put him in there as well. Streets want Wemby. Wemby will be there. Let's put Kawhi in there as well. Kawhi has been killer. Kawhi will be in Toronto this weekend. Raptors play the Clippers on Friday, and Kawhi has been hooping of late. That single-handedly actually turned the Clippers season around. So let's put Kawhi in this game. And then we got one last spot. Give me the most random player, please. I saw Svi Mihalik earlier. Okay, give me some Svi Mihalik level players. All right, give me the most obscure to round this thing off. Yeah, people saying Steph Curry. Yeah, no way Kawhi. He ruined 2 franchises. I don't know if he ruined our franchise. I mean, all he did was carry us to the championship. So I feel like I can give him a little vote. You know what? Just because. Hanson Yang. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Okay, I was gonna put the vote in for Jamal Murray, but no, it's gonna go for Hanson Yang. Handsome Yang, who I have not seen much of at all this season. Yeah, he's he might not be good. I don't know. He might not be physically ready to play in the NBA. I mean, that's not a surprise for a rookie, but Yeah, he's not been good. I watched him a little bit yesterday. He came on the court a little bit against the Warriors, but yeah, he's not been nearly as good. And that's why I've stopped the propaganda, except for in this moment here where he's on the Western Conference All-Star team. So it's Austin Reeves, Bryce Sensabaugh, Dylan Brooks, Kawhi Leonard, and Hanson Yang versus Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, Norman Powell, Musa Diabate, and RJ Barrett. There we go. We're going to submit our vote, and I want you guys to do the same thing. You know, on your own accounts. By the way, we only have like an hour left, so guys, just show a little bit of love to your guys. You know what I mean? Scottie and Brandon, they've deserved it. They played amazing all season, and you know, in terms of what's turned the season around and what's made the Raptors a winning team all of a sudden with like 25 wins midway through January, like it's those two guys have been the main drivers. So I appreciate you guys. So all right, let's wrap it out. Let's hand out the 3 stars. Oh, actually, before we hand out the 3 stars, you know, everybody, basketball can be a little stressful, okay? You know, teams put that zone in against the Raptors. I'm like, damn, that makes me wish I put the Coors Light in the fridge, because when the teams bust out the zone, that's where I got to bust out the Coors Light. I got to make the chill choice. You know, Raptors struggle against the zone, just like we saw here tonight. And, you know, instead of stressing about the game, I could have been, you know, making the chill choice. And, of course, staying chill is always the winning play, and you can always do that with Coors Light. You see, when you put it in the fridge and you take it out and you look at the mountain, it literally turns blue. It's like magic, man. It turns blue. And when it turns blue, it tells you that the beer is as cold as refreshing as the Rockies themselves. So when the game heats up, why not make the chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light? Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly, and you must be of legal drinking age. All right, let's hand out the 3 stars and get out of here. We will be back actually tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot more trade rumors tomorrow, so look out for that. We'll be up in the morning. I think at 10:30 actually, because I think Alex has therapy actually at noon. So we got to get our pod in before obviously he gets to do his breathing exercises. But anyway, your 3 stars from tonight's game, super easy to pick. First star is going to go to Scottie Barnes. He was the best player in the game, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, 10 of 16 from the field, got to the foul line 9 times. Like, just a massive all-star level performance. Your second side is going to go to Brandon Ingram. The scoring at the crunch time there, that really, you know, shut the door. That's the toughest buckets, those belong to Brandon Ingram, and he makes tough buckets look easy. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists for Brandon. And of course, your third star, Gradey Dick, 21 points, 11 rebounds, first career double-double, ties the season high in scoring with 21, and of course that is a career high in rebounding for Gradey. Yeah, I mean, the 3 still got to drop, but I was really happy for Gradey tonight, and the whole team was happy for Gradey. Got the whole team to flex like we wanted. And then your Gerald Henderson Award winner for who randomly torched the Raps. I'm gonna go with Quentin Jackson. Quentin Jackson is like I don't know, kind of like the third stringer guard, I suppose, because like obviously Halliburton is their first string guard. But yeah, I mean, Quentin Jackson left the game briefly with injury, but still had 14 points, and you know, kind of did a little McConnell-esque performance tonight. Knocked down some threes as well. So. Yeah, but ultimately that's not going to be enough to flip the game. So that's it. Appreciate you guys for following along. Leave a like on the stream. You know, leave some votes for your Raptors and your former Raptors. And yeah, huge thanks to Karem obviously for supporting as always in the background. And we'll catch you next time on Dragon Ball Z.